Hey guys, I hope you're all having a wonderful day and I hope you're excited for part 2 of this conversation with Simon. I hope you enjoyed part 1. I hope you got something out of it. If you did miss part 1, feel free to go back and watch it before getting to part 2. I would recommend that. And without further ado, here is part 2.
Yeah, McGrath used to always have a song in his head. It'd be a different song each day, but a song in his head that he'd have when he was running the bowl. And he just kept it very, very simple. And he knew what he wanted to do and just backed himself in. That's confidence.
Yeah, there's none of that fear.
You need that. It's so important. Now, have I seen McGrath get tonked? Absolutely. I've seen people take to him as well. Walk down the wicket, straight over his head. Yeah, all right, that happens to everybody. How you deal with it
exactly.
is the next thing. Is the really
he wouldn't have
important
gone,
thing.
oh shit, I hope I don't get tonked again. Oh, I hope I don't bowl another one there, you know?
No,
back to what you want to do.
With the outcome, whereas Warney was more aggressive. It was like, you're on, it's game on. So, like I said before, if he saw someone going after him, he thought, I've got a chance. I've got a sniff here. That's a great way to approach it. But you really want to disrupt the rhythm of the opposition play. Now, as a batter, I had lots of fun doing that in the nets. A bit unlikely of doing it in the game sometimes. A bit too scared of trying it. But in the nets, I would do stupid shit. Like I'd change from right-hand batter to left-handed batter, before they run in the ball. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Anything to throw them off. Walk down the wicket, come back, everything that everyone does today. I think that's important. I think also you need to create an environment in training that tries as best as possible to replicate the pressure of what would happen in the game. It's very hard to do, but give you one example. I remember there was one really successful cricketer in our club back in Ballarat, and he bowled darts, and he was a batsman. He couldn't spin the ball that much, and we all knew that. But he'd take wickets. How did you take? He'd take double, triple the wickets that I would take in a season. And like I was an okay pace bowler.
Yeah.
And I'd often look at it and go, how would you do it? But what he would bring was aggression. He would bring a bit of lip, He would get in your face. He would let you know. He would hurry you as well.
Yeah.
So as a batsman, I'm facing the nets. I look up and he'd already be releasing the ball. Like he'd rush me. He would change his run up. You'd know what his run up would be for the first few balls. You get into a groove and all of a sudden he'd come off a really short one. And just throw you off. Your rhythm's gone. Like, hang on a minute. I had 3 taps. Look up, and that's where he normally would be. And he's not there anymore. Where is he? So they do different things. And I think that's important. Don't forget the art of deception. We can learn a lot from baseball.
Yeah.
We don't do deception incredibly well in cricket, in my opinion, from a bowling point of view. One way to easily get 5-10 Ks in a bowler like that, and you're going to go, there's no magic pill, Simon. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, there isn't a magic pill. But 5-10 Ks you can get like this just by bowling with sling action.
Yeah.
Hiding the ball behind your back like Thompson did. That is perceptually, and that's the key word, it's not actually 5-10 Ks faster on the gun. It's 5-10 Ks faster in the batter's head because they didn't get the ball up till later. All right, so that's an instant 5-10 Ks you can get.
Yeah.
You can do the same thing by hiding behind the umpire and just emerging out. It's like just all these things we can play with.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to fear. Why don't you do it? Because you probably haven't practiced it. And you probably are a bit scared to embark on it in the game for fear you're going to get tonked around and taken off. Now, once we can conquer those fears and realise that in the art of taking wickets will leak runs, then it's okay. Then go out there and try these different things. But you've got to bring pressure. So this guy I was telling you about, he'd be at us in the nets. He'd give us shit. He'd rush us. He'd do all sorts of crazy things in the net environment. And what it do is it raised the intensity of our sessions.
Yeah.
The batters when they were on, we'd be like, he thought he took a wicket every ball, right? But it's funny. It brings a bit of humour, but it brings the intensity lifts you like, stuff you, mum. I'm not going out to you. Because you're going to squawk all night about it. So it makes us all better cricketers for that. I'm not saying you have to sledge, but you can be real witty. You can put a bit of pressure on. Those who just roll in, bowl the ball, and put their head down and walk back to their mark are missing the point.
Seriously.
You've got to create a bit of presence. So you know, my last season at Mount Clear Cricket Club, I won a flag. We won a flag in the twos, and in fact, all that whole year, all our teams won flags. I think, from memory.
It's like us last year.
Yeah, it's just presence. Like we just had this domination. It was like the invincible Aussie team years ago. Like any situation themselves, and they've had the belief.
Yeah.
And that happens through the odd couple of games where they just miraculously save the game, and all of a sudden a bit of belief gets kicked in. But I think you can create a little bit of this. You know, the fake it till you make it saying. I think there's a lot of merit to it. So the first thing I get, and I was doing in that last season, I was really working on the mental game. And I had a really good season. But something as simple as chest out, head up, walking back to the mark, like you own the game. Like you're the one who has the ball in your hands. The buck stops with you, right? The batter has to react to you. So, you know, you've got full control over what you want to deliver. You've got him on a yo-yo.
Yeah, it's so true.
All right, I'm going to put you over here.
The bowler starts the game.
Who are you? I own this game. You know, like, you know, that sort of alpha male. Now, I'm not an alpha male, but it says this dominance that you need to sort of have. You know, a lot of successful fast bowlers have a bit of that.
Yeah,
one fever about them, a bit of this, you know, how dare you hit me for four? You know, like bit of in your face attitude. You know, I love it. I think that's the art. That is the art of bowling for me.
Yeah,
that's the part that's not coached a lot. That's sort of just left up to the personality of the bowler. I'm saying you can fake it. Now I'm proving that I faked it. And I was able to piss a lot of people off in the process by faking it, including the crowd come semi-final. I remember it was pissing down rain. I was jumping up and down the spot. I opened the bowl. I was jumping up and down at the end of the mark. I'd point, you know, fingers at the batter. It's coming at your head, mate. And I actually say things. That was not me. I was such a shit sledger.
Yeah.
But I just going out and comfort a little bit. And all of a sudden I had people yapping to me from the crowd saying, oh, you dickhead, and blah, blah, getting to everyone. And it was just pissing people off. Now, brilliant. I ended up taking 4 wickets.
Yeah.
Now, I'll never forget it. It was a tough day for bowling where, you know, you had to make something happen. You know, I couldn't swing it. It was wet. You know, what else was I going to do? Go around the wicket, try and hit the foot marks, try and create something out of nothing. And I remember Shane Warne saying about theatrics, you know, how important it is to create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Give the illusion that there's a lot going on. Really might not be anything going on. So, you know, you might be bowling and there's no swing, or the ball might have missed the stumps by a foot, yet you make out it was like a bee's dick, you know. And you make out, you create a bit of acting, right? You just, you realise how close it was. Jeez, mate, you must know where your stumps are.
Yeah.
And the batters are looking at you, talking about, mate.
All the time,
that's enough to put a little bit of, just a little bit of doubt. It's like, oh, maybe it was a bit closer than I thought it was.
Even if they're frustrated, instead of thinking about watching the ball, they're thinking, geez, this guy's a dickhead.
Take their mind off. So
exactly,
you know, when you get a batsman yapping back to you, now you know you're winning the battle. So you're just trying to do what they don't want you to do. You're trying to throw them off harmony. A batter loves routine, consistency. You know, everyone's got their own little things that they do. Like for me, I used to always undo my gloves, tighten them back up, I'd shuffle my pads. You know, I make a mark in the ground, and I look up. You know, everyone has a routine.
Yeah.
Can we throw them off the routine a little bit? Is there something we can do? You know, it might not be. You're not allowed to say anything while the bowl's running in. That's perfectly legal, fine. But you can do other things to upset that. Like the bowler can start their run up from position. Now, technically, that sounds like a load of shit. You wouldn't say that to a bowler from a technical framework. You go, no, run up has to be this speed. You have to develop linear momentum.
As long as they're straight when it gets to an important time to be straight, then I used to do a little bit of a wither around. Yeah.
If you thought only from a technical lens, you would be a successful cricketer.
Yeah.
You have to incorporate the other stuff.
Yeah.
Now, technique is not the master; it's the slave.
Yeah.
You know, we shouldn't be training it as if it's the master; it's the be-all and end-all. The technique is what someone has based on a certain amount of constraints they have. You know, physical, biomechanical constraints on their body, limb lengths, strengthen their pecs, strengthen their legs. All that will dictate how they bowl the ball, plus all their experience leading up to this point. You know, a lot of the stuff that you see from a bowler is what they've learned naturally about bowling. It's like their self-optimization process has gone on to bring about this certain way of bowling. Now, I'm not saying it's always the most correct way of bowling, but they've found something that works for them. So they've problem solved. They've problem solved the objective of, you know, bowling a certain delivery by putting themselves in a certain position. They do it all subconsciously. Now, you see bowlers who jump into the wicket, you know, or jump out from the wicket, and we look at it from a technical point of view, go, oh, that's really bad alignment. Yes, it is. And we go, well, how do they learn that? Well, it turns out when you talk to these people, a lot of the time they've had a ditch or something in their backyard. They've had to navigate when they're running into bowl. So they jump inwards or they jump outwards to avoid that problem. They don't shift the whole wicket, surprisingly. A lot of these things are learned. They're acquired over just subconsciously from the environmental constraints around them. So, you know, a bit like us, you know, batting in the backyard. For me, there was lots of runs on offer on the leg side, always. On the offside, there wasn't much of a field there at all. So I never used to play a lot of offside shots. It was like, what's the point? But strong leg side player, because there's always, you know, the ball could be hit out there all the time. Score heaps of runs. So you look at it and go, well, your style of play was really brought up by your backyard and who you're trying to impersonate, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the stuff all of it happens subconsciously, right? So we've got to stay in the subconscious. And the only way to teach or coach this way with a fast bowler is through implicit learning. Now, I'm sure many people won't understand what implicit learning is, but explicit learning is what we do notoriously, which is tell people, watch this video. This is what you're doing. Getting to really overthink. Your knee is not in this position. It needs to be here. To be honest, we don't even know where it needs to be. We don't know where. We actually don't know how to bowl fast. I can't believe I'm saying this, but if you look really closely, we actually don't know how to bowl fast. Now, that's going to shock a lot of people. You know, me in my position saying that. The reason why I say it, because most of the research done to date has looked at what we call cross-sectional research by design. And it is looking at relationships between variables. So it is looking at, what is the relationship between your front leg, your knee, at the moment where you plant the foot and ball release speed. And the correlation might come out at 0.6 and significant, which means good association. What most people do is they run away with that and go, oh, that must equal this. So, you know, go onto Google and type in some examples of correlation does not imply causation. You'll be laughing your head off.
It's a wonderful
at
point.
Some of the things that people try to do when they see a correlation. Like, there was, I could look it up now just for a laugh, but correlation does not imply causation. This is a really important fact. All right. I'm just, here we go. Hilarious graphs prove that correlation isn't causation. What comes up here? Internet's pretty slow, like my bowling. I was going to make one up, but I thought, look, you can just go on to Google and type it in yourself, and there's some really funny examples where two variables are correlated to each other just by random chance, but have absolutely, they're so abstract.
No causation,
like, so until we actually do training studies, training interventions where we manipulate a biomechanical variable and see what effect that has on performance, we won't really know how to bowl fast. Unfortunately, we can't even do that research because you change one thing in the chain, the kinetic link, other things will change. So it's really hard to control. And
it's one of those things where you can't research coaching, can you?
Yeah, it's very, very hard. Like if I try to get you to change your front leg, you might also change your hip and your ankle. But I do it another bowler, it might be slightly different in what they change as well. So it's really hard to do these types of studies. Now, that's where Paul Felton is doing the computer simulation work and then trying to predict what might happen by using a model, which I think is a really smart way. And it overcomes this problem that we have with actual training people and trying to change one little thing. But you get the point I'm trying to make, is we think we might know what it is, but we
there's
really
no exact
don't know.
formula.
No, there isn't. And there are exceptions to every rule. So whilst we bang on about the importance of the straight front leg, we are very well aware that you don't need to have a straight front leg to bowl 160, because there's been some examples of other people who've done it without it. So there are always exceptions to the rule. And as coaches, we need to be very mindful about that. And what it does, man, is it really challenges your identity as a coach. You know, we're sitting here going, oh, okay, well, if there's all these exceptions to the rule, what should we actually be doing from a technical point of view? And so now, after all these years of coaching, I've come back to simplicity, which is just safety first, believe it or not, is about ensuring the bowler is in good alignment. In a safe position as possible to not damage themselves, repetitively speaking. So that is looking at shoulder counter rotation, just how much trunk turn there is away from the batter in that delivery stride. You know, we want that sort of below 30 degrees if possible. The lower, the better. Bowlers tend to do that, especially front-on bowlers. They tend to shift into that. A lot of counter rotation throughout a spell. It's dangerous. That's why I don't like front-on bowling. The trunk lateral flexion is another one, like I said earlier, 45 degrees. You will minimise that. Just those main two things. It's just basic alignment. There's other factors, obviously, as well. Into it, like if you cross over step or whatever.
If you guys just have cross alignment,
Those sorts of things I think are really, really important. You know, just general alignment. More so from an injury perspective, because we know if a bowler's injured and they've got a history of being plagued, then they're not having an opportunity to develop their skills, aren't they? Physically. They can develop mentally, but a lot of people don't do that. We just talked about. So they're not getting on the park. They're not getting that confidence through that by that means. And so they feel rather useless to the team. And indeed, they could be perceived by their teammates as well. Like so it's a really nasty cycle. So first and foremost now is just safety, alignment, and then speed will come with age, with growth. You know, better physical capacities, and by learning some of these techniques, we think they're important, like straighter front leg and so on. But doing it in implicit means, which means that you don't actually tell them that they've got to have a straighter front leg, but you get them to do it by creating a drill that manipulates the environment around you.
That's it. Where everyone's like, "Oh, what's the perfect drill?" Or like, "How do I do this?" I swear, a lot of the questions are this, and it's like, well, I mean, I'd have to design one based off first, like assessing you, and then we can start to think about some stuff. Otherwise, it's just throwing stuff on a whiteboard and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, exactly. The analogy that was used in this table tennis study I read, it's a very well cited paper on implicit learning. So I can send it to you. It was pretty much really interesting read. They compared an explicit approach, which was, the whole thing was they wanted to get the table tennis guys to put topspin on the ball. And so the coaches actually said to some of the players in this explicit group, they said, right, this is how you put topspin on the ball. You've got to put your wrist in this position, and told them other parameters got to do with their body. So very explicit verbal. The other group, the implicit group, one of the versions of that group, weren't told anything. They just had to work it out themselves.
Gotcha. Like it.
Right. The other group, there was another implicit group, but it was an analogy-based group, and the coaches told that group, we want you to do a triangle. You know, when you go to hit the shot, I want you to think of a triangle. So come up the top of a triangle like that.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes sense. And And so people just thought of a triangle. But that was it. There were no other rules. Nothing about wrist position, forearm position, or anything like that. Nothing about pronation or any of these specifics that we got carried away with. Funny, what showed was that the implicit groups were much better at retaining the skill down the track. So when it came to competitive situations, they weren't buckling under the pressure. Yeah. So there was what we call transfer from, say, the learning environment into the actual performance environment, which is a really important concept because we do all this technical work. We want it to actually transfer. Yeah. Not stay in the training environment. That's no good to us. So we want that, but we also want it to be retained. So if we were to do this 6 months later down the track, and so you rock up for a session, we haven't had a session in a while, but you rock up, and I would like to think that a lot of the stuff that we did is retained. Yeah. Not gone out the window, gone back to old habits, have we? So that defeats the whole point. So a lot of the explicit methods fall victim to what I was just saying. They not excellent transfer and poor retention. And then we now scratch our heads and go, oh no, what have we been doing from a social media perspective when we're trying to convey our information? What have we been doing from a coaching perspective? And I'm certainly having oh no moments because that's probably 95% of my coaching has been explicit. And the occasional drill where I manipulate the environment, such as getting a bowl to bowl alongside the nets to try and keep more upright and tall. I can only think of a couple of examples where I've used dynamic systems theory to my advantage. So manipulating the environment and etc. around you, get the desired outcome. The best thing about the implicit approach is that the athlete, the fast bowler in this case, finds the solution without thinking about it. Yeah. So it's happened in the background. They have come up with it. They've solved the coordination problem automatically. And they haven't created all these rules and all these conscious thoughts about, I've got to put my arm here, or no. You just set the environment up, set the analogy up, and let them work it out. So another interesting paper, I could talk for hours, but I realised that I have to...
I was going to say.
There was one interesting one that was on tennis, and they looked at the effects of just knowledge of results, which was, they just had a speed gun on the tennis set. And just by having a speed gun and giving and allowing the tennis athletes to see feedback on their speeds, they got faster throughout training. No coaching. Why? The authors speculated that the athletes came up with their own movement solution to serve faster because they were getting constant feedback from the gun. Now we go, well, I know we haven't done this study in cricket, but I'm like, holy hell, if we just simply gave feedback on ball speed, every ball or every second ball, there's a bit of debate out there about how often we should give the feedback, but if you give it every 2 balls or something, that's enough. Then perhaps, the bowler will come up with their own ways of trying to generate pace without us even coaching at all. Now that is authentic. That is genuine, organic. It's all those things. It's not, we're forcing a movement solution onto them. We need you to adopt this certain framework because we think it helps you bowl faster. Well, we sort of think it does, but we don't really know. We've got some hunches and we've got some theoretical reasoning behind why we think this model works. But trying to impose a one-size-fits-all approach on everyone doesn't work. And that's why I'm saying we have to be very mindful about that and let the bowler find their way. Now, why no one does it is because either knowledge, they don't know about this, or secondly, they don't even know how to go about doing this. And I think that's a really hard one, and it's no one's fault. This is no one's fault. This is just, we're learning. We've got to learn. We've got to look at other sports and we've got to look to the motor learning literature, as I said, motor skill literature and coaching literature to understand the impacts. How can we learn skills quicker than 10,000 hours for one? That's a really important question because I'll be buggered if we've got to spend 10,000 hours to learn an outswinger. People we coach don't have 10,000 hours to spend. They don't have that sort of money, right?
No, God.
So they don't have 10,000 hours, to dedicate towards one little mising skill of being able to bowl an outswing. An important one, yes, but if we liken this to learning how to bowl straight and front leg, which we think is important, research, there's a lot of things here, a lot of learning to go on. Now, when you have people like Tim Ferriss saying, that you can learn mastery of a skill within 20 hours of dedicated practice, that throws this whole 10,000 hours out the window, right? So we need to find faster ways of learning, and we need to find ways to ensure there's transfer from the learning environment into performance and also retention. So if we didn't have coaching for a few weeks, how would Stubbzy go? If he has to come back and have another session with me, would he revert back to his old way or not? So these are really important questions we've got to ask, and we have to have that critical, honest reflection of ourselves as coaches, and think, right, what is this best approach? Now, I think if someone comes to you and they've never bowled a ball in their life, I think you're probably best served to use explicit means, where you actually might grab their arm and show them what you need to do with an arm, like keep it straight. You just might have to use some of those basic methods that we currently use and so on. But I think as you work with more intermediate and advanced players, I think the shift will have to go to implicit learning and using analogies, etc., and not focusing on body parts. Use words, use thought, use those sorts of analogies, but try and come up with one analogy that can achieve
everything,
things at once. That to me is where it's got to go with our coaching. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not saying that's easy, but having that net drill that I was talking about, where you're running alongside a net, it serves multiple purposes. So it's great for keeping the bowler upright. It helps with the run up, keeps the run up straight. Mind you, they can still deviate another way from the straight, but at least one side's fixed. It helps. It can help with many things, right? It can help with the jump, stop the bowler jumping outwards because I'm jumping to a net. But my biggest question is, right, we train in that environment, and then how does it stack up when we go back to a normal environment without the net? And so the more gadgets and the more toys, all those sort of things that we love using as coaches, the more I think that we typically have of those, the more reliance that we breed in our fast bowlers on using them. So we need to have some sort of periodized plan in place where we gradually transition the bowler out of that setup. So you might have a crap load of cones set up for a runway to make sure a bowler runs straight. Well, at some point, you're going to have to take some of these cones away and get them to really trust the process and do it. Otherwise, you take them out of a game, probably they're wondering where the cones are.
I know.
Where are the cones gone? I've been doing this all the time and training. What happens now? Oh, no, I haven't done it without the cones before. Oh, no, not sure. Confidence goes, then rhythm goes. They're not going to take a wicket. So there's just a hint of doubt that creeps into that brain. Terrible. So you need to be mindful of how we transition that out. And it can be done within a session. It can be done over a number of sessions. But I think you've got to get back to the organic. And I've lived this word a lot today, but the authentic, what's the real environment? We've got to get back to that. Now, I don't know a lot about that research, but that's where my hunch is telling me what we've got to do. So whilst it's cool to get into a dick measuring contest and show, oh, look at all the drills I've got, and I know all this about fast bowling, and I've got all this equipment I'm going to put out for you. I'm talking about what we do in a session, right? Just to make ourselves look cool. This is where the priorities have gone completely out of whack. It's not about you, or, it's not about trying to justify how much you might want to earn as a coach. These are bigger, broad issues that coaches often think about when they're having a session. It comes ultimately back to an athlete-centered approach that you're doing the best for the athlete. So less said, the better. And that's really hard for someone like myself who wants to share knowledge, and you want to share knowledge. We want to share this knowledge and get all that information out there to improve all fast bowlers in the world, right? That's our common goal.
I think now for me it's just share context. So that you're not so much sharing knowledge, context that you can try to use yourself. Like you figure out how it applies. Like
we're just we've got brains, yes. I've done study, yes. But everyone's got something to add to the discussion. I think
definitely.
the bowling community can come come along here and people can chip in and say, oh, I've had this experience and this is what I found works. I've changed this with my arm and I found I was faster or something. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And we're all on an equal playing field here. Yeah, we're two coaches. Yeah, we've done people have got lots to add, but don't.
No egos in this group chat.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be something important, like really useful to ask our audiences, in that, what have you done that's worked for you? You know, what's something you felt was. Now put it back onto them. You know, people have got lots to share. We got lots to learn. So we're by no stretch of the imagination gurus. I think that's placed. I think. Yeah. I'm not hierarchical as a person. I respect hierarchy, but I very much feel that we're all on the same level. Yeah. And we can all learn heaps from each other. That sounds weird, given the background I might have or background that you have through sports science, strength conditioning, and so on. But we can all learn from each other.
I agree. Good way to look at it.
And I think people have had experiences or they've done drills that I've never heard of. I'd be fascinated to learn more about. Oh, how'd you do that? What did your coach do? Oh, that sounds like a really switched on coach. Oh, can I use that drill? You know, instead of us having to come up with all the answers all the time, that puts a lot of pressure on the coach. Yeah. To know that a study like that tennis serve one, where they just put the radar gun on and these guys come up with their own movement solution to serve faster, makes me just sit here and go, what? We've both got radar guns, man. The top of the chart gun.
I know. Yeah.
How often do we use them? I mean, we really
just started the session like, it's a fair point to test, you know, instead of it being an actual tool. Yeah.
Most bowlers who get the gun on them, you know, are disappointed with their result because the gun is often, you know, feels like it's 10k slower than what they've always thought they are. Right. It's not for that reason. And it's really important as coaches. We it's not an assessment of how fast you bowl. It's a measure of what you're doing right now. It's a reference point. Yeah. So my best sessions have been when I've had the gun on. Not from seeing how fast you are, but actually using it to monitor changes within the session or within certain sessions, like a number of sessions. And so, you know, Stubbzy, you might come to me, you started at 107, I think, from memory. And, you know, after a couple of years, you went to 120, but probably could have been 160.
Damn Achilles.
Damn Achilles heel. No, look, having the gun on you is motivating. And I said, I wonder if there's just how much the bowler is subconsciously going about making little changes to improve speed without us even coaching. Now, a coach will look at that. A normal coach like myself will look at it and go, oh, that's just not right. I mean, to me, that's not worth, you know, whatever you charge per hour for a session, etc. You feel like you're not earning your money because you're not talking. Right? Now, come back to results. That's my answer. Yeah. If the bowler achieves safety, increase in pace, whatever it is, the end result, then that's a win.
Absolutely.
No matter how it was done. No matter how it was done. Yeah. So you don't have to talk and try and justify your knowledge, and that's a mistake of young coaches. And I made that mistake a lot. Even when I did video analysis at the start, you know, there's a crap load of information on there, enough to bamboozle anybody. Yeah. We've forgotten about the end user, someone who has no idea about sports science most of the time, who might not even have an appreciation for it. Someone who's resistant to want to do bowling technical work or change their technique. Just remember who we are dealing with. So there's a lot of barriers that got to be overcome in order for us to have some effects. But I feel that if we took more of this implicit approach and left it up to a little bit to the bowler to come up with a movement solution, then it takes the pressure right off the coach. Yeah. Right? You provide the environment, you provide the gun, you provide a few analogies, and voila, you let the magic happen. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the bowler has done it themselves and they can't explain. This is the other thing about implicit learning. They actually will not be able to explain to you what they've done.
They'll just say,
so that's called tacit knowledge.
I like that.
Yeah. Or I'm like, you read out the ball speed and they're like, oh, that's fast. And I'll say, what have you done differently? Don't know. Yeah. I won't be able to tell you. these are subconscious changes. So these are important for transfer, etc. So I think that's where the best coaches will shine. They'll be able to do those sorts of approaches, and that's something I'm trying to embark on right now as we speak. In my new way of coaching. It's harder because it requires more planning. It's not just a rock up and then just sort of wing it approach and just generic drills and all this sort of stuff. I think you can have analogies or certain environments you can create to try and solve certain problems. Absolutely. I think that's like a bank of resources that you can do, rather than a bank of instructions, a bank of environmental manipulations, and a bank of analogies to address certain technical issues. Like I said about
that's where the value is.
An outswing, like that might also solve many other problems, like with the trunk inherently. So again, it's a bit of a suck it and see. You got to have a go and see how it goes with the actual bowler and what they do, because we can't guarantee that two are going to respond the same to the same drill or something like that. But it's worth having these resources up your sleeve as a coach. It just takes careful planning and a bit of trial and error, and that's perfectly fine. There's no perfect coaching session. There's a lot of things you learn after every session, providing you have an open mind and you're willing to evaluate yourself and your practices. If you just keep coaching the same way, and not consider what else is out there, what you can learn from other coaches in other sports, et cetera, then you probably, you've got a bit of a ceiling mindset. That's you're your own worst enemy in a way. You're limiting yourself and your growth. So a lot of really important things there to take away, I think. When it comes down to a bowler reading our posts online, etc., about certain things, I think it's very wise to, like what you do is you provide a context. Where does this all fit in the big scheme of things? I see a lot of information go out there on social media, and most of it's really, really good information, but the bowler must just sit there and go, oh, right. How do I do this? Like, a lot of the information that we talk about is very much on the what level. What is important for fast bowling? What we think is important? What? Not how. How do you create a straight front leg? How do you run up faster with efficient technique? How do you do that? What effect? How does a straight front leg affect other areas of your body? What does it tend to do? Those are more the questions we've got to arrive at. And we've got to be very cognizant about the end user, which is our audience, the bowlers. As I said, and it's one thing we've chatted about before, just a lot of fear around, I'm unsure about going to this coach. Is he going to wreck my action? My season going to go down the gurgler? There are some cases of it where it's happened, at state level, where bowlers have had the yips. They've lost their action, they've lost their rhythm and confidence from technical coaching. And so it's real, it does happen. And so we really need to just listen to that and heed that experience, because we don't want that for our players. That doesn't mean to say we shouldn't do technical coaching. So I'm not sitting here trying to preach that
context
technical coaching is stupid. As I said, it's the framework. It's the very base of it's the very bottom of the pillars. Without good alignment and technique, you cannot execute the rest of it. And confidence comes from that stuff, which is your mental side. So you must have the really good foundation. It's just how you do it. How do you change technique? And that's what I'm talking about. Explicit versus implicit. Coming back to those stages of learning process. When we learn how to drive a car, for example, that cognitive stage of learning, the very first stage, is all very much, where am I going to put that foot? Where am I putting my hand? What am I looking at? There's so much thinking going on here. But all of a sudden it becomes automated the more we do it. Now, a lot of that stuff we had early instruction. So that was explicit learning. You get a lot of, do this, do that, do this. Okay, like I said, that's probably fine early on. And then after a while, you tend to work out your own way of doing it. There are some individual flares of driving, right? For example, my brother, because he was brought up in go-karts and stuff like that, he drives, so right foot on the accelerator, left foot on the brake. Now, I'd use right foot for both. And I tried driving like he does, and I couldn't do it. I was getting into a crash. And he's like, don't you do that? You have not had those experiences. You know, yeah, if you're going to do it in a safe environment or something. But I'm like, well, that's fascinating. I was just watching him drive. Everyone's got their own flares in doing things, right? Based on experiences. So I'm trying to bring in, you know, other examples outside fast bowling, so people can relate to it. Whenever you first learn anything, it requires a lot of conscious processing, absolutely. And it's probably that's unavoidable. I think you just embrace it and try to reduce the amount of cognitive processing as best as possible. So just one thing at a time, like you say. I think that's really important. And then once we get past that stage and get into associate learning stage and then autonomous, I think those implicit methods really come to the fore. Yeah, and this is very much comes down to you knowing your athlete really well as well. Yeah. And how else could I say it? If you have a really good connection with your bowler or athlete, and you can ask them, how'd that feel, or just get them to be in touch with what that is, and they feel like they can trust you, and they can feel they can be honest with you, then you're going to get more authentic answers, aren't you? Rather than, I just want to say what the coach wants to hear. That was better. Remember how many times I'd ask you that, nearly every ball, how'd that feel? And I'd stop you sometimes, Stubbzy, and I'd say, I want you to tell me if it's shit. You know, if this doesn't feel right, like, be honest, just say so, because we'll probably not persevere with this crazy thing that we tried.
I had some fun trying some different things.
Yeah, it was fun. Like, and you know, for a while there, I thought, well, we can try it for a couple of weeks, and or there were some sessions where we tried it for a few balls, and we went away from it. You know, this intuition or gut feel as a coach is something you can't measure, but something that's also important to. That's where I sort of see the benefit of a coach as well. You know, you can sort of tell when something's not working, or something that has the potential to work. It's just not working right now. It's better to make that judgment call and have the balls to own a decision. Is really important either way. But to be transparent along the whole process and have that open communication with the two. I mean, I've had some bowlers who've actually said to me, Simon, that was brilliant. That was a really good thing. And in the same session say, no, it didn't work at all. That was crap. I'm like, perfect. Well, we're one step closer in the direction we want to go.
Absolutely.
Just because something didn't work doesn't mean that you're a failure. Don't confuse results with your identity. We're actually now progressing. It's all in the art of moving forward. Right? So once you can establish that rapport early on, I think you need at least one session just to sit down and build this sort of stuff without going to technique and all that crazy. Just bowl and just have fun and build that relationship, and then use that to leverage what will be some brilliance later on. You know, we've got a mate who does private consultancy, not in cricket, but his first session is just 1 hour of chatting. It's just sitting down, getting to know who he's working with, you know, get to learn you know, how do you work? What makes you tick? What do you love about fast bowling, man? You know, and Stubbzy goes, I love intimidating batsmen by bowling bouncers or growing this beard and looking ferocious, or
letting the hair out of the tattoo. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It could be whatever. And all of a sudden I'm learning heaps about Stubbzy, and I'm using these things. I'll use these to my advantage when it comes to coaching. I get to know your athlete. I think it's really, really important. Because when you're trying to make change is never easy on anyone. Even if you've got a growth mindset, we like routine, we like consistency, we like doing things a certain way because that's how we've always done it. We do get stuck in our ruts, but making change also means you've got to change behaviour. And so that just doesn't happen in one session unless the athlete is really bought into what you are, who you're about, and what we're doing together as a collective. As long as that trust is there. And so what I'm saying here, in essence, is you can bypass all this if you get them to come up with their own solutions.
Yeah.
How magical.
Yeah,
Does that
completely
make
agree.
sense?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think I'll just
your head's
I'll edit all of this down into just that last part, and then we can just put different analogies and different stories here. Jeez, you got a lot of stories. So, but it's so true. It's like that kid that I coached over the weekend, and I took him through a couple of sort of drills at the start, and I almost like scrapped it and just went, you know what, I reckon this is not gonna like work for you. And I've had people pick it up really quick and then be able to link a walkthrough together really, really well. And then some that don't.
Yeah.
I just thought, you know what, I actually reckon looking at his footage, you know, and I put that thing up, you know, very, very hinged. We landed it back for content. Just say, just be as tall as you can. You know, I used to think, you know, like when you're walking back, I want you to. It's almost like those timid kind of characters that are more sheltered and whatnot. Now you can bring some psychology into it and just go, open yourself up. Like, you're Superman, mate. I need you to get up here because this is where we want you at back for contact. And mate, it was ridiculous. I actually took a video of him like at the start side on. I got a really good one of him at the end side on. It was insane. And you could see the extra clicks coming out, and you could see in his own head, it was like, yeah, I can hear it on the back net a bit hard. I was like,
yes,
you're welcome, mate. You know, I put that Instagram story on my personal one and just said the most complicated coaching method that we could have used, just be tall. But yeah.
It's one that's an old approach that I remember listening to in my younger days, and I never really understood what it meant. What does keeping tall really mean? When does it apply? What does it look like? All those sorts of questions. And when I started coming through as a coach, I must admit I wasn't a fan of it. Early days, as I was learning about fast bowling, I was a bit like, I don't know if about being tall is really the key. I think it's about being long. So I was looking very much into Brett Lee's bowling, and he had a really long stride. He had collapsed the back leg, all controlled, but it was very horizontal. I went, I don't know, being tall is really the key to bowling fast, especially when the research is telling me as well that there's associations in play here between horizontal, so braking force, so how much braking force we can generate, along with stride length, all those sorts of things. I'm like, wow, this is all stacking up to being a horizontal game, you know. But as I've come to coach, and I've realised just how tricky it is for bowlers to get a straight front leg when they go long, I think it's because they're trying to bowl against the leg, not up and over the leg, which is, they're two different types of thoughts. Brett Lee somehow had a really good technique in a way that he could bowl against it, but he still got up and over it. I think bowlers like Pat Cummins is a great example of someone where he brings the leg in closer than, say, Lee did. And he gets up and over his leg better, in my opinion, and a bowler who stays really tall. And you can watch that footage, you know, that sort of umpire view footage of when the bowler comes through. You can see there's barely any contact time on the back foot at the crease. They get through the crease so quickly. They have a lot of energy getting into the crease. So obviously their ability to generate momentum is important. This is if you're having traditional action, by the way. So, you know, run in, very strong, stable landing, transfer, rock backwards to forwards. And it's just quite simple stuff. So I think, well, about transfer momentum, like not many people know what that means, or what it feels like. But I remember like playing golf, and I had a golf coach talk to me about transfer momentum. And he said, I struggle with transferring momentum from my back leg to the front leg when I go to tee the ball off, drive the ball off the tee. And I was like, well, is there any, what fixes do you have for that? Well, give me a drill. You know? And he got me, get me like a baseball bat, or you could use a golf club or anything. And he just said, I want you to swing it. So just go across this way and just swing it. And he said, what do you feel yourself doing? So I'm rocking on my back foot and then going on my front foot. And I said, well, that's the same sort of thought process, or whatever you're going to use when you hit the ball off the tee. You're just not going to do it with the same exaggeration. So I just went, oh, okay. So I just felt the weight shifting a little bit to my back foot and then to my front foot. And all of a sudden, boom, not trying as hard to hit the ball, you're just using your energy. And so a lot of bowlers who don't bowl fully off the front foot, who haven't completed their action, they've still got all this weight they could have transferred onto their front foot, and wondering, there's probably 5Ks gone right there as a guess, just lack of transfer. So, I remember facing Shane Harwood many years ago. Used to play for Australia and Victoria. And he came off a few steps and, on hard wicket, he was probably on 140. But one thing I noticed in his action, first and foremost, was he transferred momentum better than anyone else I've ever seen. He literally rocked forwards and back if he was just rocking motion like that. He just loaded up on the back leg and it went whoosh straight home on the front leg, and you could see it, you could feel it. It was incredible energy, all from barely any run up, just literally 4 or 5 steps. And I was like, whoa, you can make it happen. Like, he has a big frame, but you don't have to run in 1,000,000 miles an hour. That's the other thing. There's caveats to all this. Like, you don't have to run in 25 kilometers per hour like Brett Lee did. You don't need to. If you can win other efficiencies elsewhere. So it's a mistake to think that we've got to coach sprinting mechanics for everybody. Perfect alignment for everyone. Murphy Hughes had a curved linear run up. So did other people. They were still effective bowlers.
I think with the run up, as long as it's that last bit that's straight, I think you're not going to get that cross alignment.
I reckon, like if you come in curved linear, you might have more lack of rotation. You might have more energy.
And I think
rotate.
You're almost really less likely to that might be a thought there for people who run straight and then do jump inwards or curve inwards. Maybe if they started on the angle, they might curve straight as opposed to going the other way.
Might quite possibly.
Yeah.
I looked at McGrath and the way that he used to jump in at the end of his run up, and I used to go, when I started knowing a bit about fast bowling, I was like, why would you do that? You've just lost all this pace. You've redirected your energy down fine leg. But he did it only for the fact he wanted to bowl stump and maximise his.
That's it.
He had his mind on a performance outcome, not on a technical outcome.
Yeah.
So, maybe he lost a couple of K. All right, fine. Maybe he put himself in a slightly bad position, but he didn't barely have any injury. It's like he had a very, very repeatable action. It was simple. And that's another thing I want to say is you have an action you really want to be consistent with, and that's you can make improvements and so on. But you want something that's repeatable, that's something that's easy to execute, because when you get tired, you don't want to have to think or worry about your coordination problem and all that sort of stuff. You just want simplicity all the way, repeatability, consistency.
We've done well here.
That. Keep it simple, stupid. And people who are watching this or will be listening to this.
2 bloody hours. So much for the 1 hour, Simon.
What's the point? What's the point of all this? We wanted answers. Well,
you get conversation instead.
It doesn't come in this form. You will learn by doing. You will find your way by going out there and playing, and having some knowledge of results is really important. So having some element of speed, understanding, or just feel. You might feel the balls come out quicker and have a bit of a think, what have I done there? Or, that works. Make a note of it. Boom. Beautiful. There's my performance diary. And then you're growing. You can do that by yourself.
Yeah, it's easy stuff. Keep it simple.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Stubbzy.
I might let you go.
First podcast.
Oh, Jesus.
Videocast.
Good fun. We'll definitely have to book another one.
Oh, mate, it's dynamic. It's explosive. It's brilliant.
So many stories in there.
It's amazing what you can learn, especially if you look outside your box.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'll leave you to it then.
A lasting thought, mate.
Yeah.
I will leave you to it, but look at other sports and other coaches and what they do.
Yeah, I do like looking at baseball. I was having a good chat about throwing in baseball, and there's a bit to it as well. I've got a thought for next time around the similarity between batting and bowling. Actually, my simple thought on that was People who rush batting open up too early. People who rush bowling open up too early. Don't rush. Like, you'd probably be better aligned and probably generate more pace too. It's funny how people rush to bowl the ball so quickly. They get themselves, they just time it all wrong. It's one of those sort of simple things I think I've noticed.
Sorry, you cut out. That was all gibberish.
Oh, did it? God damn it.
Yeah.
So
you said something about rushing.
Yeah, so it's about like batting and you can almost link it to bowling, whereas as a batsman you want to stay side on so that you get that rotational power. And the people who don't have power, they open up too early. You know, it's almost like they think it'll be quicker, so they open up early and try to hit the ball too early. Well, same thing with bowling, and you get people with mixed actions.
Yeah, we were working on that. Yeah, when we were working on getting a bit more side on. Remember, we did that stuff when we talked about throwing. When we learn how to throw, it's all side on.
Yeah.
And there's a good reason for that, because you get a lot of trunk power, rotation and everything like that. Hard to get any speed throwing just front on.
Yeah.
So why do we bowl that?
Yeah.
End of discussion.
Good point for next chat.
For bowling and for midway bowling, not front on. Sorry, I know there's been one exception, Malcolm, but that's about it.
Yeah, true. Oh, all right, mate.
Anyway, mate, good chatting with you. Bye now from London.
Hey guys, I hope you all got something out of that wonderful conversation with Simon. He's a wonderful person, a good friend of mine. If you guys do have any comments, feel free to drop them below in the comments. I always make sure I try to get back to everyone. And if you guys enjoyed these coaching conversations, feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel or any of the other social media profiles. I've linked Simon's below, so if you enjoyed the conversation, you can follow Simon's social media profiles. Mine are linked down the bottom as well. I hope you guys have an awesome day and look forward to the next coaching conversation.